Okay, so we have a fun task today. We're going to be some creative writing with a specific focus on the creative writing option on your English language paper. Now, this is a lesson that's going to be aimed at all age groups and age ranges, but for my students in particular, this is going to be for Year 7 and 8 students, but this is actually a lesson that's applicable for any age group across Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. The skills are universal, and the tasks are universal as well. So anyone of any age of secondary school can attempt this lesson to help with their creative writing, and hopefully give them some ideas and inspiration to help them be better writers in the future. So for these types of lessons, I always try and pick content that I think is going to be entertaining, because I think for creative writing, obviously the more engaging the topic you're given is, or interesting, generally the better the writing you're going to produce is. Now, the unfortunate thing is for your exams or task guides is you're not always going to get something that you like doing, but I'm going to give you something hopefully that you enjoy doing today. So to start you off, the pre-starter, I'd like you to have a look at these images here, and hopefully you can see a bit of a link between them. Going with a prehistoric theme. So we've got the T-Rex attacking cars here. We've got a landscape full of dinosaurs and prehistoric background here. And this one, although it's a more modern setting, it's supposed to resemble this prehistoric landscape. So to start with, I want you to look at these sentence starters here and attempt to finish them in the most creative way possible. Now, what I don't want you to do is to finish it in a simple way. So let's have a look at this first one together. Glancing to my left, suddenly. Now, a simple way of finishing this would be glancing to my left, suddenly a dinosaur appeared. Quite basic. Some might say a little bit boring. So please ensure when you're doing these sentences and finishing them off, try and squeeze any adjectives and adverbs in to really bring your writing to life. As an example, we'll just spruce up that sentence I gave you. Glancing to my left, suddenly, ferocious, vicious predator appeared. I've just simply put two adjectives in there just to bring that to life a bit more. You might not even say dinosaur. You might actually leave it more ambiguous or open to the imagination of the reader. Glancing to my left, suddenly, a vicious, snarling beast appeared. So we might start to fit in some metaphorical language as well. So we've got 4 different sentence starters, and I want you to finish them in the most powerful way you possibly can. If you do get carried away and you start to write a paragraph, don't stop. That's absolutely fine. In fact, that's what I would like you to do. With creative writing, wherever you get a bit of inspiration, if you feel compelled or motivated to continue, please do carry on. Anyway, you should probably give yourself around 5 minutes to complete that task, and take more time if you need to. There is no rush for this. Okay, so if you write down the title, what is writing to describe and how does it relate to my exam? So we're going to be covering sort of the basics and some of the basic skills we can use to do some good creative writing. And this is engineered towards the ultimate goal of your English language creative writing question. Okay, so descriptive writing, just a little recap to try and refresh your memory. What different types of sentences are there is our bronze question. Silver, why should we use different sentence types in our descriptive writing? And gold and platinum, how would you use sentence types to make a piece of writing sound more tense? So give yourself a couple of minutes to refresh your memory. Use Google if you are really struggling to look up some of those answers. I'll try and cover a couple of those once you've attempted that. So pause the video now and give yourself a few minutes to attempt those questions. Okay, so what different types of sentence are there? So we've got simple, compound, and complex being the 3 main types. However, I try and, when teaching this to students, I try to not let them focus too much on the specifics of those different sentence types. Ultimately, what I'm trying to get you guys to do, and what your teacher should be trying to get you to do, is to just use a variety of sentences. And that means you want to have short, sharp sentences in there, maybe to create some tension or a climax. You might have longer, more descriptive sentences with lots of different things going on to really build up the description and the tension before you get to that final point. It's just to get you to think about that, because if you've got the same type of sentence over and over and over again, it's going to get quite boring for the reader very, very quickly. Okay, so What is writing to describe? Have a little think about that question and write down what that means to you. What is writing to describe? Um, After you've done that, you might want to actually look that up again on Google. What is writing to describe? And you're probably going to get several different ideas and definitions. Ultimately, writing to describe in this context is you're writing a piece of writing that is describing something, okay? And that could be an event, it could be a landscape, it could be both, okay? But the key is you're focusing on describing the things that are happening, the objects that are around you, so on and so forth. So to help you get in that mindset, you might want to look out your window. If hopefully if you're next to a window, if not, go and have a little look now. Have a look out the window. How would you describe what you see? If you need to, actually go outside. Listen to the sounds that are around you. What can you feel? Okay, so can you feel the wind or the breeze gently hitting your skin? Is it a breezeless day? Can you feel the sun pounding down on your skin, or is it actually raining? Start to think of your senses and all the things that are going on. Okay, so sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. And the one we don't talk about isn't a sense, but it's definitely something that exists. What is the atmosphere? Is it pleasant, calm? Is it brutal? Is it tense? Have a think about that. Okay, so once you've done that, resume with the video. Okay, we're going to cover a few key mistakes that students often make when attempting a descriptive writing question. Now, you guys will probably get a picture to help you with your description. So, I'll write a description or write a narrative or write a story based on this picture. Common mistakes students make. Have a little think what you think they might be. What mistakes do you often make when you attempt this type of question? So, you'll be given two options, a written one and one with a picture. A mistake some students make is they'll answer both. Don't only answer one, especially if it says choose one. So, read the question very carefully. This one is quite funny, but also if you are the person that makes this mistake, it isn't going to be funny for you when your teacher marks your work. But if you get the picture and you're literally just saying what you see, I'll go back a slide to give you an example of that. So you would just say, I see green trees. I see sheep walking up a field. That is not what this is asking you to do. You're getting the wrong end of the stick there. The picture is to inspire your own narrative description. Other mistakes, not varying your sentences. I covered that at the start of the video. Not using paragraphs. So make sure, just like sentences, you've got to have a mixture of paragraphs and paragraph sizes. You might have a short, sharp paragraph, a one-line paragraph to really break the tension. And like sentences, you might have a longer, more detailed and descriptive paragraph to sort of build the atmosphere up, or whatever it is, tone or mood you're going for. Using too much dialogue. So especially for today's lesson, I'd really like you, when you attempt the main task on this, to not use dialogue. Okay, I want you to focus on everything but dialogue, because dialogue breaks description generally, unless it's characters talking about another character and how they look, etc. And we're not going for that. We're focusing on everything else that's going on. So try and keep your dialogue to a minimum if you do have it at all. Using simplistic vocabulary. So you want to make sure every single word you use, is it the best word you could have chosen? And that's why at the end of this lesson, once you've written your work, it's really important you reread it and make sure that you edit and change any boring or basic words that you've used. And lastly, make sure from the images I give you, you write a description based on those images. Don't write a description that is sort of another random picture or random idea. Obviously, you've got creative freedom to move away from the picture and go into another storyline or idea, but the picture should be the foundation, okay? So don't just do your own thing. Okay, we're going to skip forward to this. Is just to try and get you into the mindset of the task. So we're looking at this prehistoric landscape that we've got in front of us. So bronze, nice simple task. I just want you to focus on the senses. So write down what you can taste, touch, see, hear, okay, and try and do it descriptively. So I can hear the crashing waterfall thundering in the distance, might be one. Okay, you're focusing on the senses. Beyond that, I want you to start to think about figurative language. So for silver, think about similes. Okay, describe the dinosaurs using similes. So the brontosaurus's neck was as elongated as what? Think of a good comparison. Try and avoid cliches like skyscrapers. Try and think of other things that are unique that really bring that imagery to life. Okay. And lastly, just get stuck in. Okay. If you're really confident, just go straight for it. Use this landscape and write a descriptive paragraph. Using what I've just said, using figurative language, so similes and metaphors, and using the senses. You shouldn't really spend longer than 10 minutes on this particular exercise. It's just a warm up more than anything. Okay, we're going to have a little look at this example now that I found on the internet. And what I'm going to ask you to do is, what we're looking for is how this person has used sentence structures. We spoke about that briefly at the start. But we can also think about the language as well. It doesn't just have to be the sentence structure. So let's read through this particular example, focusing on how the writer has used sentence structures. And then you're going to try and replicate that when you attempt this later on. It was like nothing you had seen before. All around me was a blanket of pure green grass, so smooth, soft, and sweet that lying on it was like resting on the world's most comfortable bed. Bliss. Occasionally, enormous trees forced their way through the beautiful ground and reached hopefully towards the crystal-coloured sky. Some of them were isolated and afraid of companionship. Others congregated together, whispering to each other through the breeze. Together they reflected a whole spectrum of shades of green, which was just wonderful to see. However, thin, grey, and concrete veins would sometimes run across the lime blanket, pathways to the heart of this community, the Cream Church. Like a record needle, ready to spread the message of their God to all who lived there, the church's spire pointed directly to heaven, yet only a few sporadic houses stood lonely in the distance. Who went to this bright, rectangular, and stunning religious building? Okay, I'm going to stop there. Okay, you can read the rest if you want to. We're just going to focus on the sentence structures we've got here. So pause now and give yourself time to think about what the main type of sentence structure you'll see in there, how they vary in their sentence structures, and what is the effect of that. Okay, so once you're in this video, I'm going to cover now some of the things we spot. So we see a variety of sentence structures. We see short sentences. It was like nothing you had seen before. So that short, sharp sentence there just really sets the scene in a punchy way. We then go on to a more complex sentence. All around me was a blanket of pure green grass, so smooth, soft, and sweet. So these pauses here, you must remember to put these types of commas in. They just help break your writing up. And if you're struggling with that, read it aloud and see where you naturally pause, and then add your commas in or semicolons, etc. And then we finish with another short sentence here, bliss. It's a really punchy way to end that. And then if you have a little overview, you'll see there's a slightly shorter paragraph here, then it gets more detailed and longer as it goes on. So the paragraph lengths also help change the tone and the atmosphere as the piece goes on. Right, so I'm going to go through some images now, and what I would like you guys to do is pause the video on each image, and for each image, take as long as you need, but I'd probably recommend about 30 seconds to a minute. Write down as many different words as you can possibly think of to describe the image that's in front of you. So, I'm going to start with this image. Just a reminder that you should be pausing this video and resuming once you've finished. Okay, so hopefully you managed to write down lots of different words and ideas for those various images. Obviously, you only get one image, but your brain is your biggest weapon you've got when you're doing descriptive writing. Say you're giving the image of a thriving park. What is around that you can't see? Imagine that that's a snapshot. There might be another park. There might be a different type of entertainment down there. There might be a concert going on somewhere else. Use your imagination to imagine what's going on around that picture and add to your sort of ideas, your sensory ideas that you're coming up with, the words you're coming up with to help you. I'm going to skip forward for that slide there, just because it's not essential for you guys. And this one here. I'm going to go on to actually planning our response now. Okay, so I want you to write down your senses table: sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. And I've got a video link here, But all you need to do is just Google or go on YouTube and search for Jurassic Park T-Rex scene. And what you want is you want the T-Rex scene from the original Jurassic Park, where the cup of water is shaking and the T-Rex is approaching. It doesn't appear for a couple of minutes. It really builds the atmosphere and tension up. And I want you to use that video to help you come up with some ideas for this particular task. So watch that video and write down in that table everything that, if you were there, what you would be experiencing. So what are the sounds, the sights, what can you taste, touch, etc. The most prominent ones really are sound is very important in that one, touch is very important, and sight. Those are the three main senses you're going to be focusing on. So watch that video, look it up. If you're having problems, hit me up in the comments and I'll try and post a link to you. But it should be easy enough for you to find and then complete your senses table. Okay, you can also expand on that senses table by looking at these 4 images here and imagine you're there. Now, this one in the bottom left was the one I was referring to in the previous segment. This is the clip I would like you to watch on YouTube if you get a minute. And this is fantastic for helping you map out the sensory imagery you're going to use. So writing down all those different things you could talk about in your own description. Now, it is important to note when you are writing those things down. So, for example, here I can see the fangs of the T-Rex. So don't just say T-Rex mouth for sight. Start to write down the actual words you're going to use in your description. So fangs, jaws, mouth of hell. You might even start to chuck in a few metaphors. Write down the actual expressions you're going to use. Just makes your planning a bit easier and quicker when you actually write your descriptive writing. Okay, so on to the main task. I'm going to use everything we've spoken about, and I want you to think about all those things we've gone through. So I want you to think about your use of sentence structures. I want you to think about your use of senses, because those are the main components to writing a good description. And I want you to write a description suggested by this picture, or I will give you the other option, or write the opening part of a story where you journey through a prehistoric world. I would advise going with the image because you've got the video to help support you there. But if you're confident enough, you can just go with the one that is more freeform and open for you. So you should probably allow yourself 20 minutes to write that description. Please be confident enough to post in the comments section for me to have a look at if you feel brave enough. Alternatively, obviously, just post to your teacher and allow them to have a look through you to give you some feedback. One final bit of advice to just think about to get the highest grades. Remember to organize your paragraphs correctly. Vary your sentences, vary your punctuation, use a range of linguistic devices such as similes, alliteration, metaphor, imagery, so on and so forth, and think about each and every word you're using. Main groups of words to remember to use are adjectives, adverbs. Those are really going to bring your description to life, and then along with that, using figurative language, similes and metaphors, personification to support that. Just a bit more help. We've got a word bank here, just various words to describe something that's sort of atrocious, dangerous. Look at all these words that you could use to describe that T-Rex or any prehistoric monster you're talking about. And then words to describe the sort of landscape, if you're doing the prehistoric world, pristine, underdeveloped, archaic, all good words to describe that prehistoric landscape if you're going for that one. Right, that takes us to the end of this lesson. If you want to have an idea of where you're getting your marks from, this is the mark scheme when you get to GCSE for AQA, but any other exam board, if you have a different exam board, will have something similar. The marks are generally spread out quite similarly between different exam boards. So you get some of your marks for your content and organization. Look where you think you'd fit in based on what you've written. And then we get some marks, very important for technical accuracy. So that's your spelling, your punctuation, your grammar. Not just getting it right, but also how ambitious you are. So don't just play it safe because you're afraid of getting a word wrong. Actually be brave, because it's better to be brave, because then you could fall into just using the vocabulary, even if you're not getting it completely correct. It's much better to be brave than safe with this type of task. Okay, hopefully you've found that video useful, that lesson useful. Please hit me up in the comments if there's anything you'd like to see in future videos or anything that I didn't cover very well or properly. I'm open to constructive feedback. Please hit like if you found the video useful, and feel free to subscribe, because I will be releasing videos in the future that will hopefully you find useful for English. Thank you very much.